Do I hear new quality? Do I hear a better camera? Well, welcome to 2019, everyone. Hello, beautiful bookworms. My name is Katarina and welcome to my channel. And today I am here with my beautiful hoodie that I got from when I went to Milan to study. And me and my hoodie, we are going to do the presentation of the best manga that I read in 2018. Because it's already 2019 and I am freaking late with videos because life, life is complicated. So first of all, I just want to say that my favorite mangas of 2018 was a real difficult list to compile because 2018 was one of the best in terms of mangas that I've read. So a lot of mangas that I really love are not in this list because I had to choose based on what I loved more, if you know what I mean. So there are a lot of mangas that are not in this list and that I hope that will make it to the list of 2019. Particularly, they are not in this list because of some smaller details, like the plot being less involving than the ones that I chose, or the fact that they switch of genre really fast and in a way that I don't really appreciate, or just the fact that I haven't read a lot of those mangas in comparison to the others that I chose. And those mangas are still coming out, and so I still want to see if they're the best or if they're not the best, and I don't want to put them in a top something. You know what I mean? Why am I doing this disclaimer? I don't know, let's just get into the list. So before I present to you the 5 main mangas, or manga series in this case, that were my favorites for 2018, I decided to do one honorable mention, and I will explain to you why just one and why I wanted to do it in the beginning of this video. That honorable mention is Children of the Whales, and the fact, oh, I forgot to say, this is by Abi Umeda. Great start with the names of the authors, right? So why is this an honorable mention and not a part of my favorites list? I will proceed to explain. By the time that I'm filming this video, I've only read 2 volumes of Children of the Whales. And because of that, there are, I believe 6 or 7 volumes out already. And because I only read 2, although I absolutely love the 2 that I've read, I don't feel like I'm in a position to actually say that this is one of my favorite manga series of 2018 because I actually haven't read even half of the manga series, if you know what I mean. So I am refraining from pulling this, but I am cautionally telling you that maybe you should get into this and read it because it is great. It is a very sort of Ghiblish vibe story about this community that lives in this sand boat, this sand island, and that sand island is navigating throughout the sea, and one day they get out of the island to do some exploring and they find out a girl that is not from the same clan as they are, and suddenly they are attacked and you don't know why, and it will be explained to you throughout the rest of the series. I currently have volume 3 to read and I'm very, very excited because this is very climatic. In all of the volumes there is a climax scene. So I am cautionally telling you that this maybe make my list of 2019, so maybe pick it up because it is great. But it's not on my favorites list, okay? So now we can proceed to that list, which is why you all are here watching this video. So I have to say that I had a lot of difficult time doing this list, but I think that I comprise the best experience that I have throughout the entire year. So let's get into it. The first manga series that was one of my favorites throughout the entire year was The Ancient Mago's Bride. And this one is by Kore Yamasaki, the story and the art. And this one actually has an anime adaptation, which I haven't seen, but I really want to in order to just do my manga versus adaptation kind of thing, and if they are good or if they are not good and whatever. But what I really enjoyed about this is that this is basically a coming-of-age story, but not really. So that's exciting. So this is basically the story of our main character, and she's called Shiz Hattori, and she has a power. She's able to see fae and other creatures that live amongst humans but are normally not visible. And because of that power, she is supposed to die very, very young, and she is always plagued since she was a child by evil forces that want to capture and use the power. So there's a lot of family drama in this, and she ends up selling herself as a slave. And in an auction, she's bought by this creature, Elias, and Elias is sort of a magus, which is the total opposite of alchemy in this world. So in this world that exists alchemy, and then exists magic, ancient magic, and the practitioners of that magic are called magus. And he, as one of the last magus in existence, decides that he's going to train Chise so that she can understand more of the power that she owns, and so he's going to make her his apprentice and also his bride. And there's a very interesting dynamic between these two, because both of them do not understand human emotions very well. She, because she's always been alone throughout her life and she's always felt like she's a burden and that she doesn't deserve to live, and he, because he's not entirely human, he's a creature, so obviously he doesn't understand that proposing to a girl that's a teenager and that it's a girl and she's not a creature, it's kind of complicated. But I really love the dynamic between the two of them, and I really love how Chise grows up to understand that wanting to live and doing the best that she can with her life is entirely her responsibility, and that she can't live just for the others, she has to live for herself too, and she has to make the best that she can with what she is given. It's really a beautiful story. It has 9 volumes currently out, and the first arc is done, so the second arc is going to be coming, and I am absolutely in love with this. I love the ensemble of the characters. There's a lot of secondary characters that are perfect and beautiful, and I just recommend this to no end because this is fairly short and fairly beautiful and emotional. So my second recommendation is A Silent Voice, and this one is by Yoshitoki Oima. Well, that's a great name. So this one is the box set of A Silent Voice, and as you can see, it is comprised of 7 volumes, and I read them all in this year. I absolutely loved A Silent Voice, although it was a little bit controversial for me, and I'm going to try and explain you why that is. So this is basically the story of these 2 main characters, and one of them, the boy, actually bullied this girl when they were like in prep school, to the point that she had to leave school because she was actually physically hurt. And this was because she couldn't hear. So she had to wear hearing apparatus and hearing aids, and she tried to communicate throughout a notebook, and she was bullied heavily by this boy. And then some years later, he finds her when they're like in college year, I believe, and he apologizes to her, and then he's gonna go away and try to kill himself. But she accepts his apology, and they start trying to be friends. And this is very controversial in my opinion, because this deals a lot with what is bullying and what gives you the right to bully someone. Nothing, obviously, but this struggles a lot with that context. And on one hand, I really enjoy the approach that the author did to this, which was, I'm going to put this down because, Jesus, this is heavy. So as I was saying, in one hand, I really love the approach that the author did with A Silent Voice, because it kind of made you believe that even the people that are bullying other people, they are doing it because they themselves are in a pile of shit. They themselves don't know how to react to changes, to situations in their lives, family situations, friendship situations. And the interesting fact is that when this guy bullies this girl and she leaves school, the colleagues start bullying him because they don't want to take the blame for what happened, and so they blame him and they start treating him like trash. And it's really interesting to see that the only reason why he was doing it is because he was a child and he felt like he was losing control over his life, and so he decided to assert that control into bullying a girl that had less advantages that he had. At the same time, I feel like the author is kind of trying to take the blame off of him, and that one I cannot forgive. So you can see how I struggled a lot reading this manga series, because obviously, as someone that actually experienced bullying, but not to the point where I was physically harmed in any way and had to leave school, not like that, but I did experience it, and I saw other people suffering from it. I cannot give that explanation to forgive the fact that bullying exists, because not all people that bully have a reason to do so, and even if they do, they still do something that is wrong. So that you cannot apologize for that. But at the same time, I loved how the concept of people using violence to speak up because they don't know how to speak up in other ways, and maybe they just want to be friends with other people and they just want to try and understand, but they can't, and they don't make that effort, so they use violence. I love that, because that is a psychological exploration of violence, and as you know, I love everything that has to do with psychological explanations of stuff because I'm a psychologist, so obviously. And I think it was a well-constructed narrative. Some of the secondary characters were on point in this novel. I really enjoyed the fact that not only the main characters were the specific target and were the ones just going through things, and secondary characters also had their problems and also had a very difficult way of dealing with violence. Like, they all had problems. They all didn't know how to express themselves, and they all had situations where they used violence because they didn't know what to do with their lives if they didn't. Psychological violence, physical violence, and I really love the fact that friendship was one of the main things associated with this manga series, associated with the fact that sometimes the people that you have around you are maybe not the best influences, but when you find out, those are the people that will actually do something for you and about you and will try to bring you to the right path again. So it was amazing. I really loved our main characters. Even our our female character that was bullied, she profoundly believed that it was her fault because she was deaf, and that she brought everything that was bad to her family and friends, and so she deserved to be bullied. And that was such a powerful thing to read about. And I don't know, I loved it, and I do advise you to actually read this if you want to question yourself and if you want to question society and moralities. I absolutely love this manga series, and I think it is so important for people to read it. And there's a movie, an animated movie of this manga series that I haven't seen yet, but I really want to, because I cannot wait to cry as much as I did with the manga. So after that long exposure of a silent voice, let's just get back into track, shall we? Okay, so the next manga series that I'm going to recommend is Happiness by Shuzo Hoshimi, and you've heard me talk about this. And I haven't read all of the volumes of this manga series, but I've read 7 volumes of this manga series, and the 8th volume came out just at the ending of December, beginning of January, so I couldn't possibly read it before making this list. And so I decided that 7 volumes was enough for me to conclude that this is one of my favorite series of 2018. Actually, just 1 volume would be enough, because I read this first one and I said, shit, this is the thing. So this is basically a story about the concept of happiness, as the title indicates, and the concept of vampirism at the same time. And you might think, oh, not again, paranormal romance. Well, it's not that. It doesn't have anything to do with paranormal romance. Romance is actually not into the picture, to be honest. And I freaking love that. So when I talk about the concept of vampirism, is kind of the concept of how one turns into a monster, like if monsters are made or if monsters are born. And that is a concept that you will see throughout many of my picks in manga literature, because I believe that Japanese do it so gratefully and gracefully. I believe that is one of the things that they portray better than other authors of other nationalities. And you can fight me about it, but I think it's true. So basically, this is sort of a study about what happens when family is tested, when friends are tested, when people disappear without leaving a trace, when you make decisions that will change your life forever. What if something happens when you're a child that traumatizes you to the point that will change your entire future, and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a lot of trigger warnings for blood, for gory scenes, for scarring, for abuse, for trauma, and I don't recommend going into this if you're fragile about those things, but at the same time, I do recommend that you read this if the concept of vampires is something that you actually enjoy, because the thing is there and it is explored, not in a paranormal sort of I now drink blood kind of thing, but in a paranormal sort of what changes when you become something that you're not supposed to be. Also, the concept of happiness and what it is also present throughout the entire manga series, and I also really like the fact that the art kind of gives you the sadness, loneliness, and nostalgia that a lot of people growing up feel like, because our characters are pretty much child, then adolescent, and then you find them adult with the same loneliness, sadness, and changes that growing up portrays. So I really enjoy this, and I really recommend you to read this. In the same vibe of happiness, my next series was Tokyo Ghoul by Sui Kishida. And Tokyo Ghoul, you hear me talking about this a long time in this channel, and this is basically the story of this boy that is caught between ghouls, who are human-like flesh-eating monsters, and humans. And he is in the middle of it. He's half a ghoul, half a human because of an accident that happens, and he is trying again I don't know how to speak. He's trying again to actually understand if monsters are made or are born, and to actually ask the question, like, who are we to decide that some actions are right and some actions are wrong, and that ghouls in this specific world are lesser than humans? Like, who are we to decide which species is the best and which species deserves something and which species deserves to survive? And I think that that's a very modern concept. Obviously in here we have ghouls that don't exist, but you can ask that about other particularities of the world, like humans versus animals, humans versus plants even, or humans versus the earth, to complete everything. Like, what right do we have to judge and to use stuff and then not wanting to be judged and used by others that are on top of the food chain, so to speak? And this is really gory, really violent, and has trigger warnings for pretty much anything, psychological or physical. You will find it here. So if you have any trigger warning, any stuff that you don't really like to be portrayed, I advise that you go into this with caution, because you can find that you'll be triggered, and I don't want that for you. But for me, this is so dark, but so profound, so deep. And once again, the themes of loneliness, sadness, and trying to make it in a world where you don't even really know who you are and what you're meant to do. It's really beautiful, and I don't even know what to say about this. I love Tokyo Ghoul. There's an animation. I don't really like the second season of the first animation. The second animation I haven't seen yet, because I'm still reading the sequel, so I haven't seen it. But if you want to watch the first season of Tokyo Ghoul, I absolutely recommend it, because it is really amazing, and I really enjoyed it. But obviously I recommend that you read the manga more than you watch the adaptation, because it's not as good. Let's just be honest. And then finally, my biggest surprise of the year, a manga series that I only read the 4 volumes that came out, and I absolutely fell in love with it. That is Made in Abyss. And this one is by Akihito Tsukushi, and it is a masterpiece. So I thought for a while if Made in Abyss should make this list, because, as I said, I only read 4 volumes of it, and for other series I thought that only reading 5 volumes, for instance, was not enough for me to grasp if they were my favorites or not. But the thing that I felt while reading Made in Abyss made me pretty sure that I had to put this on this list, because this was one of the best manga experiences that I ever had, and I am so happy that I actually could understand and follow these characters, and I cannot wait for the next volume. And I feel like I won't be able to come out of this series when it's ended for a very long time, and that means something, so I really wanted to share it with you guys. So Made in Abyss is a story of this society that lives really close to an abyss, you know, abyss. And that abyss is a very layered abyss, and they take from there all of the things that they need to survive. So it's sort of an ecosystem, and they explore it in order to mine stuff and to bring stuff out that they can use in their daily lives. And so a layered abyss, obviously, not everyone can get to every layer, and because of that, there are explorers, and those explorers have different colors of whistles, and only the white whistles are the ones that can go back and forth without any problem, or so they say, and the ones that can actually dive into the end of the layers of the abyss. But the abyss has a problem. Every time that you go one layer down, to come up, you suffer physical and psychological nuisances, let's just say. And so each layer, if you're not ready for it, you can actually die. So in the first layer, when you come up, the only thing that you feel is nauseated, you can throw up, you feel some headaches, but that's okay. But when you get to the third or fourth layer, I'm not sure, when you come up, you start bleeding throughout all of your orifices. And obviously, if you're a child, for instance, you don't have that much blood and you don't have that much power to withstand that pain, so you'll probably die. And supposedly when you get to the last layer, to come up is completely impossible and you're given as dead, and the only things that you mine down there and take will reach the shore of the abyss, but you will never come back up. So this is a story, as I said, of our main character, a child, and the mother of that child, she is a white whistle, and she went for a last dive, which is what you call when people get to the last layer, for many, many years ago. And one day, when this child is mining the first layer of the abyss, the white whistle of her mother appears with a cryptic message that says, "I will see you at the bottom of the abyss." So this pure, innocent, beautiful child, she decides that she's going to trust her mother completely, even if she doesn't know if that message is from her mother, and she's gonna dive into the abyss and get to the last layer. And obviously trouble ensues from there, and you are reading this with the expectation that she's going to die, because there is no way that this pure innocent child can withstand the pressures of the abyss. And obviously there are creatures in the abyss that want her dead, and there's also people in the abyss that are not okay because of the psychological influences of the abyss and that are going to try and kill her. She meets some creatures, she makes friendships, she suffers greatly, and I spent most of this manga series crying. Not because I couldn't handle it, although if you hate child abuse, which doesn't mean that I like it, okay? I don't like child abuse. But if you're triggered by child abuse or by bleeding or by, I don't know, psychological abuse and physical abuse, please don't pick this up, because this is really strong, and the fact that the main characters are mostly children will hurt you. It will hurt you and it will destroy your soul. We all know that I like that, but maybe you don't, so don't do it. But I thoroughly, thoroughly recommend this if you want a very emotional read, because you have children as main character. Obviously, that is going to pull some of your buttons. You have a very courageous journey of self-discovery, of growing up, of wanting and trying to do something that nobody did, but not for selfish reasons, just for the sake of your own heart and to try and find your family. And I can't. I've cried in pretty much all of the volumes, but this is so good that I have to say, Made in Abyss, everyone. So that is going to be all for my list. As you can see, it was a very difficult list to put together, but it was a very, very strong list in a way that all of these volumes made me contest some of my moral values and also made me grow up a little bit inside and feel like I'm a more developed person in this case. So I really hope that you guys take from this list a manga or a manga series that actually fits to your needs and to the things that you enjoy, and that from there you can learn more, read more, and love manga, because these are the best manga that I read in 2018, and these are the ones that I would totally recommend that you guys pick up and read. Obviously, bear in mind the difficulties that I had with each of them, and bear in mind if they are suited for you, but I really, really recommend that if you're going to pick something out of this channel for you to read and for you to get to know, pick one of these mangas for real, because they are really, really good. So that's going to be all for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you know any of these mangas or if you want to read any of these mangas, please tell me so in the comments down below. So that's going to be all for today, guys, and happy readings to you all. Bye!